April 6, 2026, the pre-dawn silence over Ali al-Salem Air Base in Kuwait was ripped apart without warning. No diplomatic cables, no escalation ladder, just the cascading howl of the base-wide tornado air attack alarm and the gut-deep instinct of soldiers sprinting for hardened concrete shelters they had not expected to need this morning. In the Combat Information Center, embedded beneath the 386th Air Expeditionary Wing's hardened command bunker, Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Hayes watched a nightmare unfold on his SPY 6 linked air defense display. 23 thermal signatures, small, low, fast, had just crossed the Iraqi border moving southwest at 185 kilometers per hour. His classification system returned the verdict in 1.1 seconds. Shade 136, Geron 2, variant. Time to impact, 6 minutes, 12 seconds. For the 15 American airmen who would be wounded in the next 7 minutes, the attack appeared sudden. But for anyone watching the intelligence feed from the NSA's J-39 fusion cell in Bahrain, this moment had been building for 5 weeks. Since Operation Epic Fury opened on February 28, 2026, with nearly 900 US and Israeli strikes killing Supreme Leader Khamenei and dismantling 72% of Iran's integrated air defense network, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps had gone underground, silent, methodical, pre-positioning dispersed Shahed production units and mobile launcher trucks into hides inside western Iraq under the cover of Iranian-linked militia networks. Tonight, that restraint had consequences. But before I show you how the most sophisticated layered air defense system in the Middle East performed against 60 simultaneous incoming threats, and why Iran's calculation about magazine depth was both brilliant and fatally wrong, let me ask you this. If you were the base commander at Ali al-Salem on the morning of April 6th, what single decision would you make in the first 30 seconds of an attack alarm? Comment below. At 03:18:44 hours, the Patriot PAC-3 battery designated Kilo Bravo 1 activated its AN/MPQ-65A fire control radar, acquiring the lead drone echelon at 97 kilometers. The Aegis integrated terminal defense layer above it simultaneously cross-cued the engagement sequence with data arriving from an E-7A Wedgetail AEW and C aircraft, call sign Apex Control, orbiting at 11,000 meters over the northern Gulf. The threat geometry was immediately clear and immediately alarming. The 23 drones detected on the first pass were not the entire attack. A KH-13 satellite pass tasked 6 minutes earlier had revealed a second echelon of 40 additional Shahed 136 airframes already 180 kilometers behind the first wave, plus a third formation of 17 still taxiing on an improvised desert launch strip near the Iraqi-Iranian border. Iran's strategy was not about the first wave. It was about the math. Each PAC-3 MSE interceptor cost $3.4 million. Each Shahed 136 cost $22,000. The IRGC had done the arithmetic and concluded that with 80 drones, they could drain the base's Patriot battery to zero and leave the airfield naked for a follow-on Fateh 110 ballistic missile strike. What they did not account for was that the US had quietly repositioned an additional THAAD battery to Kuwait just 9 days earlier, a movement deliberately concealed by suppressing its radar emissions during transit, and that 3 M-SHORAD maneuver short-range air defense systems had been pre-positioned around the perimeter's 4 most critical infrastructure nodes. At 03:19:02 hours, Kilo Bravo 1 fired its first salvo. 6 PAC-3 MSE interceptors erupted from their vertical launch canisters in a tight ripple, climbing at Mach 4.1 into the moonless Kuwaiti sky. All 6 interceptors achieved proximity detonations within their kill radius. 17 drones fell in the first engagement corridor. 6 from the lead echelon were still inbound. Time to impact, 68 seconds. At 3:19:38 hours, the IRGC executed the switch. Hidden airborne relay nodes, 3 Su-35 fighters operating under full emission control out of Bandar Abbas, activated the surviving Shahed swarm's terminal autonomous attack protocol. The drones split. Each surviving airframe began an individual terminal attack dive toward a pre-programmed node, the runway lighting control system, the POL fuel farm, the communications relay tower, and the eastern perimeter barracks where 200 airmen slept. Iran had studied every publicly available AAR report on air defense performance against swarms. They knew that when drones diverge from formation to individual terminal attack vectors, the kill chain must retarget each drone separately, and that process costs 3 to 7 seconds per drone. Against a 23-drone swarm, the math begins to break down. An M-SHORAD team at Checkpoint Echo, operating its 30mm Bushmaster autocannon in autonomous engagement mode, killed 2 drones at close range at 03:1951 hours, one at 380 meters, one at 290 meters from the perimeter fence. A manpad team on a rooftop security post fired a Stinger at 03:2004 hours, detonating a third drone 450 meters out. One drone was spoofed by the EA-18G Growler that had scrambled from the southern runway 90 seconds after the alarm, its AN/ALQ-249. Next-generation jammer pod overwhelming the drone's terminal navigation with precision electronic noise. It flew straight into the desert 620 meters north of the wire. Electronic kill. No fragment. 2 drones penetrated. At 03:2017 hours, a Shahed 136 impacted the edge of the taxiway apron adjacent to hardened aircraft shelter 4. Its 40-kilogram thermobaric warhead detonated against the reinforced concrete surface, punching a 2.5-meter crater and sending fragmentation through the corrugated steel walls of the adjacent fuel system's maintenance bay. The blast wave reached 200 meters. 4 American airmen inside the maintenance facility were thrown off their feet, sustaining shrapnel lacerations and blast injuries. None were killed. The second drone arrived 8 seconds later and found the soft spot every base commander fears. At 03:2025 hours, a Shahed 136 struck the corner of a force protection post near the eastern gate, detonating against the sandbag wall and releasing a lethal fragment pattern into the personnel sheltering behind it. 11 U.S. service members were wounded in this single detonation. Combined with the 4 from the hangar strike, 15 total casualties in under 4 minutes. The IRGC surveillance drone orbiting at 6,000 meters above the cloud layer was already streaming the burning images back to Tehran. Iran celebrated, and in celebrating they exposed everything. At 3:14 hours, 3 minutes before the first drone even crossed the Iraqi border, Apex Control had already been tracking the 3 Su-35 relay nodes since they lifted off from Bandar Abbas. The moment the drones launched, the Su-35s had been forced to activate their Irbis-E active phased array radars at full emission power to manage the swarm's terminal attack coordination. It was a 4.9-second window of full electromagnetic exposure. It was 4.9 seconds too many. 2 F-22A Raptors, call signs Viper 1 and Viper 2, had been orbiting in a stealth MCON hold position at 14,200 meters over the northern Gulf since 1:55 hours, pre-queued by the same NSAJ-39 feed that had watched the launcher trucks move into position. They carried AIM-120D AMR-AAM missiles loaded with the latest terminal guidance software update. Their own radars were cold. They were flying entirely on passive sensor fusion, receiving targeting solutions from Apex Control over a narrow-band encrypted data link that Iranian ESM systems were not calibrated to detect. Viper 1 released a 2-round snapfire sequence at 03:2001 hours. The missiles used terminal active homing, acquiring independently at 18 kilometers. At 03:21:39 hours, 82 seconds after release, to when 74 seconds after the final drone hit the base, both Su-35 ceased to exist. 2 synchronized fireballs at high altitude, visible from the Iranian coastline 190 kilometers away. The third Su-35, watching its wingman vanish from the data link screen, broke hard south, activating its L-175V Kibani electronic countermeasures pod, diving for the deck at Mach 1.4. Kibani is a formidable system. It was not designed to counter a shot that had been fired at it 110 kilometers away 68 seconds ago on a delayed loft trajectory. Viper 2's third aim 1-2 OD already passed the apex of its ballistic arc, needed only 4.3 seconds of terminal active guidance to complete its intercept calculation. Impact at 3:21:57 hours over the Gulf of Oman. 3 Iranian Air Force pilots were dead. Iran's ground radar network had never detected a single F-22. But the battle for April 6 was not over. At 03:23 hours, the CENTCOM J2 watch officer at the Combined Air Operations Center in Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar, received the intelligence flash that changed the authorization calculus. A KH-13 satellite pass over Avaz province in western Iran confirmed 14 agricultural trucks, identical to the dispersed Shahed mobile launcher network U.S. intelligence had been tracking since March 19th, were activating their ignition sequences. 5 launchers per truck. 70 drones. Second wave. Estimated time to launch, under 4 minutes. Brigadier General Sandra Rowe, commanding the CAOC, did not pause for confirmation. At 03:24:30 hours, she transmitted the single coded authorization her staff had been waiting for since the pre-mission brief 6 hours earlier. Iron Lance execute. From the USS Abraham Lincoln operating under full MCON in the northern Arabian Sea, 4 F/A-18F Super Hornets had been holding in a tactical orbit at 9,000 meters for 43 minutes, preloaded with AGM-154 JSOW extended-range glide bombs and pre-briefed on the Avaz province target coordinates. Release authority had been pre-delegated. The pilots released their weapon packages at 03:25:09 hours, 68 nautical miles from target, well outside the engagement envelope of the aging Tor M1 battery protecting the convoy. A GM-154 JSOW is subsonic, stealthy, and entirely passive in its terminal phase. It emits nothing. It reflects almost nothing. It arrives without warning. 14 minutes and 31 seconds of silent, curving glide through Iranian airspace. Then, at 3:39:40 hours, the Avaz province launcher convoy was consumed in a succession of 16 coordinated detonations spaced across a 1.4-kilometer grid. The fireballs were visible from Iranian military satellites. The second wave 70 drones were never launched. Simultaneously, as the last explosions of the JSOW strike lit up the Avaz farmland, a different kind of thunder was happening 2,400 kilometers northwest. At 3:15 hours on April 8th, Israeli Air Force F-35 Ayadir jets activated Operation Eternal Darkness. In a 10-minute window coordinated through the same Apex control network feeding USCAOC, the Israelis struck over 100 Hezbollah command centers and military infrastructure sites across southern Lebanon, the Bekaa Valley, and the southern suburbs of Beirut. Rampage supersonic missiles, GBU-53 Stormbreakers. An entire command architecture dismantled before the defenders could issue a single protective order. At least 254 people were killed in those 10 minutes. Lebanon's health ministry described the scale of destruction as catastrophic. Beirut's southern skyline burned all morning. This was not a coincidence of timing. This was a coordinated multi-theater suppression campaign, the United States neutralizing Iran's direct drone attack nodes in Kuwait, while Israel, operating under the same integrated kill chain, destroyed Iran's most capable regional proxy at its moment of maximum exposure. The message to Tehran was delivered not with a press release, but with GPS coordinates and weapon release times that said one thing clearly: we are inside your decision cycle. We see your orders before your commanders receive them. At 3:47 hours on April 7th, as Kuwait's emergency medical teams completed field treatment on the 15 wounded Americans, most of whom had already returned to duty, the Iranian Foreign Ministry transmitted a back-channel message through Pakistani diplomatic channels in Islamabad. Tehran accepted a 2-week ceasefire, effective immediately, and would agree to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Trump posted the announcement to Truth Social at 4:02 hours. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif confirmed the mediation. Both delegations would meet in Islamabad on April 10th for formal negotiations. 40 days of war. 300 U.S. and allied personnel wounded across the Gulf theater. Iran's air defense network degraded by 72%. Its proxy network in Lebanon shattered. Its nuclear enrichment infrastructure set back a minimum of 5 years by independent assessment. And the Strait of Hormuz, the 33-kilometer choke point through which 20% of the world's oil supply moves every day, reopened without a single additional strike required. What the ceasefire papers signed in Islamabad will not record is the 78-minute sequence that preceded them. 3 Iranian Air Force pilots killed over the Gulf. 14 mobile launcher trucks destroyed in Avaz province. One base attack absorbed, treated, and answered before Tehran had finished uploading its propaganda video, and 70 drones that were built, fueled, aimed at American soldiers, and never left the ground. Here is the question that no diplomatic table in Islamabad will answer. Iran's dispersed Shahed production network, spanning an estimated 47 undisclosed facilities across 12 provinces, is still operational. Its Fateh 110 and Zulfiqar ballistic missile stockpile, degraded but not eliminated, still carries the range to strike every major U.S. base in the Gulf from inside Iranian territory. And the IRGC commanders who ordered the April 6th attack are not in a prison cell. They are in a bunker studying the failure margins of Shahed 136 terminal guidance against THAAD integration and building the next version. Kuwait intercepted 28 more Iranian drones on the morning of April 8th alone, just hours after the ceasefire was announced. The ceasefire of April 8th, 2026 is a comma, not a period. The Gulf has gone quiet. But as any combat pilot will tell you, the most dangerous moment in a war is when both sides pause to reload. What do you believe? Is the Islamabad ceasefire the beginning of a real and permanent deal? Or is Tehran simply buying time to disperse what remains of its arsenal before the next round? Leave your analysis in the comments. And if this breakdown exposed military tactics that will define the next decade of warfare in the Middle East, hit the like button and subscribe to Navy Vector, because the next classified file, what the Pentagon has not told the public about what Operation Epic Fury found inside the Iranian nuclear sites, will unlock in the next video.